Dear listener, welcome. If you too would like to fall asleep each night through the eyes of a different prehistoric creature, you can subscribe and become part of our prehistoric family. By liking and leaving a comment, you can give us strength. And before we begin the story, remember this: every day is a new beginning. Enjoy listening. Did cave bears hibernate for 8 months? This question is both simple and mysterious. To answer it, we must travel back in time, back to the Ice Age, back to the cold valleys and dark caves of Europe, back to a world where giant animals walked slowly across frozen landscapes. One of those animals was the cave bear, a massive creature that carried the weight of the forest in its bones. A creature that vanished each winter. A creature that seemed to sleep for 8 long months. The story of hibernation is more than rest. It is survival. It is adaptation. It is the strategy of nature written into the body of the bear. To understand it, we must first picture the Ice Age. The winters were long. Snow fell thick on the ground. The rivers froze into silence. The plants withered. The small animals hid. For a giant bear, food became almost impossible to find. Hunting would waste energy. Wandering would waste time. In this harsh world, the only solution was stillness. The cave bear had to sleep. When a bear hibernates, its body changes. The heart slows down. The breath becomes shallow. The temperature falls. The body no longer burns energy at the same speed. Muscles remain intact even without movement. The fat that was built during summer becomes the only source of power. In this way, the cave bear survived. It curled deep inside a cave. It closed its eyes. It entered a state between life and death. For month after month, it waited. Why 8 months? Because the winters of the Ice Age were not short. In many parts of Europe, cold began in early autumn. It continued until late spring. That meant nearly 2/3 of the year offered almost no food. For an animal as large as the cave bear, there was no choice. 8 months of sleep was not luxury. It was necessity. Fossil evidence confirms this. In thousands of caves across Europe, scientists have found the bones of cave bears, sometimes entire, families, males, females, cubs, all together inside the same cave. This shows that caves were not random shelters. They were chosen winter homes. The scratches on the walls, the layers of soil mixed with bear remains, the teeth worn down from a lifetime of grazing and chewing roots. All of it tells the same story. These animals lived by preparing in summer and sleeping in winter. In the biology of hibernation lies wonder. Imagine entering a cave. You see a shape in the shadows. It looks like a rock at first. Then you notice the slow rise and fall of its chest. Steam drifts from its nostrils. Its eyes are closed. Its ears twitch faintly. This is the cave bear in hibernation. Its heart beats perhaps 10 times per minute. Its breathing is slow and steady. Its body recycles waste so that it does not poison itself. It does not eat. It does not drink. It does not move, and yet it does not die. This is the power of evolution. Humans of the Ice Age also needed caves. They too sought shelter from the storms and snow. Sometimes they entered a cave and found a bear already sleeping inside. What happened then? We cannot know every story, but we find evidence of both violence and respect. Some caves show signs of struggle, broken bones, stone tools near the remains of bears. Other caves show paintings, images of bears drawn on walls. Perhaps these were symbols of strength, perhaps of fear, perhaps of respect for the great sleeper of the winter. The question of 8 months also ties into climate. Climate is the silent architect of behavior. During the coldest phases of the Ice Age, glaciers spread across the land. In these periods, food was scarce for longer than half the year. Bears that could sleep longer survived. Those that could not were lost. Over time, the rhythm of 8 months became fixed into their cycle. The cave bear was mostly vegetarian. Unlike the brown bear of today, it relied more heavily on plants. That meant its chance of finding food in winter was even smaller. Because plants were gone, the ground was frozen, roots were buried deep, so the cave bear had no reason to leave its cave. To wander would mean death. To sleep meant survival. The sheer size of the cave bear makes this even more striking. These animals could weigh up to 1,000 kilograms. Their shoulders stood as tall as a human. Their skulls were broad and heavy. To feed such a body required enormous amounts of energy. Storing that energy in fat was the only way to endure the long sleep. Hibernation is not a perfect sleep. Sometimes bears stir. Sometimes they shift positions. Mothers gave birth while hibernating. Cubs were born small and weak. Yet they survived by feeding on the milk of their mother while she remained in her deep state. Imagine the stillness of that cave. A mother breathing slowly. 2 tiny cubs crawling blindly to find her warmth. All of it happening in silence. Outside, snow falling. Inside, time standing still. Archaeology shows us more. The distribution of caves with bear remains is not random. Certain caves were used for generations. Bears returned year after year. This suggests memory. This suggests instinct passed through time. The same walls, the same darkness, the same sleep. Over centuries, entire populations of bears used these caves as their winter homes. For early humans, the cave bear was both danger and mystery. They saw the bear vanish in autumn and reappear in spring. It was as if the animal had died and then been reborn. This cycle inspired myths. In many cultures, the bear became a symbol of resurrection, of eternal return, of strength hidden in stillness. Even after the cave bear went extinct, the memory of this cycle survived in stories. Why do we care about hibernation today? Because it reveals a way of life unlike our own. We cannot imagine sleeping for 8 months. Yet for the cave bear, this was natural. It was ordinary. It was survival. And it shows us that life takes many forms. Some fast and restless, some slow and patient. Let us picture one final scene. A winter night 30,000 years ago. Snow covers the valley. The moon glows faintly on the ice. Inside a cave, a great bear lies still. Its fur is thick. Its breath is slow. It will not wake until the grass grows again. Outside, a small group of humans huddles near a fire. They whisper stories about the giant sleeper nearby. They wonder if it dreams. They wonder if it will wake angry. They wonder how such a creature can live without moving for so long. The answer is hibernation, a masterpiece of biology, a dance between cold and warmth, between hunger and survival, between death and life. 8 months of silence written into the body of the cave bear. So, dear listener, you now know why cave bears hibernated for 8 months. It was not choice. It was not laziness. It was life itself. It was the secret of survival in the Ice Age. If you have listened this far, I want to thank you. I invite you to join our family here. Please subscribe. Please turn on the notifications. And please write in the comments what time you are listening and where in the world you are listening from. Your support helps me bring more stories like this. Your support makes this channel grow, so become part of our journey. Become part of our quiet history. Together we can keep exploring the forgotten past. Thank you, dear listener. Sleep well, dream softly, and remember, the cave bear still sleeps in the echoes of the earth. The Ice Age was not gentle. It was not soft. It was a world of hunger, a world of silence, a world where snow could fall for months without end. Rivers froze into white chains. Forests stood dark and empty. The wind carried ice instead of warmth. To live in such a place was not easy. To walk through this land was to fight with nature itself. The cave bear was a giant. Heavy bones, thick muscles, a body built for power. Yet even such strength was not enough against the long winter. In summer plants grew. In summer berries, roots and leaves filled the forest floor. In summer animals moved freely and the bear could feed. But winter was different. Winter stole everything. Food became rare. The ground was locked in frost. Streams offered no fish. Plants slept under snow. Other animals hid away. To hunt would mean wasting energy. To search would mean losing strength. For a giant bear, each step in the cold was like burning the last candle in a dark room. When the light was gone, so was life. And so the cave bear chose stillness. It chose to slow down, to hide within stone, to rest for months, to turn survival into sleep. This was not weakness. It was wisdom. It was strategy. Hibernation was nature's secret tool, a way to pause life without ending it, a way to spend the harshest months in silence. Inside the body, everything changed. The heart no longer beat with summer's strength. It slowed, beat after beat became distant. The breath, once steady and strong, became shallow. The body temperature dropped, cooling like the world outside. Muscles no longer demanded fuel. Fat became the only fire. Stored during summer, burned during winter. This rhythm was ancient. It was not invented in a single season. It was carved by countless winters. Bears that could not sleep long enough perished. Those who could lived. Survival wrote itself into their blood. For 8 months, the cave bear remained hidden. Not dead, not awake. Something in between. A dream stretched across seasons. Outside, snow covered the hills. Wolves howled. Mammoths walked the valleys. But inside the cave, the bear rested, silent, waiting. Hibernation was balance. Energy saved. Hunger delayed. Life preserved. It was the bridge between one summer and the next. Without it, the cave bear could not survive the endless cold. With it, the bear became a master of patience. A giant who turned sleep into power. The Ice Age tested every living thing. Some animals moved to warmer lands. Some migrated in great herds across frozen plains. Others grew thick fur or hunted in packs. But the cave bear stayed. It stayed in the mountains and valleys of Europe. It stayed near rivers and forests now buried in snow. Its tool was not movement, not speed, not sharp claws alone. Its tool was stillness. To do nothing was sometimes the smartest act of survival. Energy is the coin of life. Spend too much and you die. Save it and you live. Hibernation was the bank where life stored its wealth. Each fat layer gathered in summer was like a coin of gold. Each month of rest was like a careful withdrawal. By spring the bank was empty, but by then the world offered food again. This cycle repeated for thousands of years. The cave bear's body became a living calendar. Summer meant eating. Winter meant sleeping. Between the two lay survival. Evolution rewarded this pattern. Bears that stored more fat lived longer. Bears that found deeper caves stayed safer. Bears that slowed their hearts more deeply saved more energy. Over time, these traits grew stronger. Generation by generation, the cave bear became the perfect sleeper. To sleep was not to be lazy. To sleep was to be wise. The Ice Age killed the reckless. It killed the impatient. Only those who adapted to its rhythm remained. The cave bear was among them. Inside its cave, the body was a laboratory. The heart was slow but steady. The blood thickened to carry oxygen with less flow. Muscles stayed strong even when unused. This was a miracle. Most animals grow weak without movement. Muscles shrink. Bones thin. But the bear held its power. It awoke in spring, not broken, but ready. Ready to walk. Ready to feed. Ready to live another year. Scientists today still wonder at this. How can an animal sleep for 8 months and rise again with strength? How can it avoid illness? How can its body recycle waste without poisoning itself? The answers are hidden in the slow dance of hibernation, in the careful rhythm of biology, in secrets written in blood and bone. The cave bear did not know the science, but it carried the result. It carried the success. It lived where others failed. It grew large while others shrank. It survived by sleeping. In this way, hibernation shaped not only the bear, but the entire world around it. Predators noticed. If the bear slept, it was not a hunter in winter. That meant wolves and lions could roam without competition. Prey noticed. If the bear was gone, they had one less danger to fear. Ecosystems bent around this long silence. The cave bear's choice of sleep changed the rhythm of forests and valleys. Winter was emptier without the bear. Spring was louder with its return. In the grand theater of the Ice Age, each actor played a role. The mammoth marched. The wolf hunted. The reindeer traveled. The cave bear slept. And this act was as important as any hunt. It was survival by absence. A story told in silence. A giant who conquered winter by closing its eyes. Imagine the stillness inside the cave. Darkness heavy like stone. Air cold but quiet. The sound of breath barely there. Once in a while the bear shifted. Once in a while a paw moved. But most of the time nothing. Outside storms screamed. Inside time itself slowed. Months passed like moments. When at last the snow began to melt, light returned to the cave. The bear stirred. Muscles woke. Bones stretched. Hunger called. The long fast was over. Hibernation had carried life across the dark bridge of winter. Without it, there would be no survival. This was the gift of evolution. This was the lesson of the Ice Age. Sleep can be as powerful as strength. Stillness can be as sharp as claws. Patience can be the difference between life and death. The cave bear was proof. Proof that nature rewards not only those who fight, but those who wait. And so for thousands of winters, the caves of Europe held these sleeping giants. Each year they returned. Each year they survived. Each year, hibernation proved its power again. The world of the cave bear was the world of the Ice Age, a land both familiar and alien. Europe did not look the way it does today. Vast forests stretched across valleys. Open plains rolled beneath grey skies. Glaciers carved mountains into sharp edges. Rivers carried ice instead of water. The air itself was colder, sharper, and heavier. Winters were longer. Summers were shorter. Life moved slowly. To survive here was to live in balance with the land. Snow covered much of the continent for months at a time. Trees bent beneath its weight. Hills vanished under white blankets. The sun was weak and low, often hidden by clouds. Days passed in dim light, nights in endless darkness. Winds howled across the open plains. They carried the bite of frozen seas. They scraped the skin. They tore through the forests. They froze rivers into silence. The landscape was sculpted by ice. Glaciers pushed forward like slow giants. They cut valleys. They left behind boulders and ridges. When they melted, they filled lakes and swamps. The ground was never still. It shifted with frost. It cracked with cold. It changed with the turning of each age. In this frozen stage, the cave bear found its home. The bear needed both shelter and food. It needed caves to sleep through the cold. It needed forests to feed in summer. Europe offered both. The limestone hills and river valleys of Central and Eastern Europe were full of caves. Deep chambers, quiet tunnels, and safe hollows. Perfect places to rest. In summer, the meadows and forests bloomed with food. Roots, berries, plants, and sometimes meat. This land gave what the bear required, but it demanded a heavy price. The cold punished the careless. The storms punished the weak. Only those who adapted could remain. Imagine walking through a valley in Ice Age Europe. To one side rises a glacier, blue and white, shining in the pale sun. To the other side, a dark forest waits, its floor covered with needles and frost. In the distance, mammoths move like living mountains. Reindeer travel in herds, heads lowered against the wind. The ground is hard as stone. Each breath leaves a cloud in the air. The silence is broken only by the cry of a raven or the crack of ice. This was the stage where the cave bear lived. It was not a gentle stage. It was not soft. Yet it was alive. Every part of it shaped the creatures within. The plants grew short but strong. The animals carried thick coats. The predators grew cunning. The prey grew fast. Evolution worked like a sculptor, carving each species into a survivor. The climate itself was the master. When glaciers advanced, animals moved. When glaciers retreated, new lands opened. Forests shifted. Grasslands stretched. Rivers found new paths. The cave bear's Europe was never fixed. It was always moving, always changing. This constant motion forced life to bend or break. The cave bear bent. It learned to feed when food was present. It learned to hide when food was gone. It built its rhythm not from choice but from necessity. The cold was both an enemy and a teacher. It showed what worked. It destroyed what did not. This land shaped the body of the cave bear. The wide skull, the heavy jaw, the thick frame. Each part was an answer to the demands of Europe. Strong teeth for grinding plants, massive size for storing fat, patience for waiting through winter. The Ice Age was more than a season. It was an age of struggle. Each winter could kill. Each summer was a chance to prepare for the next. The cave bear was locked in this cycle. The landscape around it told the same story. Mountains stood tall but wore scars of ice. Valleys lay deep with frozen rivers. Forests grew and died back with each shift of climate. Grasslands stretched across lowlands and drew herds of herbivores. This was a living map, a map that changed with the breath of the glaciers. To the north lay endless sheets of ice. To the south, warmer lands where forests survived the cold. Between them stretched a border zone, sometimes forest, sometimes grassland, sometimes tundra. It shifted like a tide. The cave bear lived in this borderland. Not too far north, where ice ruled without mercy. Not too far south, where food was more abundant but caves less common. Its world was the middle ground. Harsh but possible. Dangerous but survivable. Here caves opened in limestone cliffs. Here valleys held rivers that froze in winter but flowed in summer. Here forests bore fruit and roots in the warm season. Here the bear could live. The climate controlled everything. If summers were wet, plants grew thick and bears stored more fat. If summers were dry, food was scarce and winters were harder. If winters stretched too long, many bears never awoke. The balance was thin. A single bad year could end a life. Yet over thousands of years, the cave bear endured. It matched itself to the pulse of Europe. It followed the rhythm of glaciers and seasons. It turned survival into a tradition. To sleep in winter, to wake in spring, to eat in summer, to rest again when the snow returned. The landscape itself whispered this pattern. Mountains gave shelter. Forests gave food. Plains gave space for herds that carried life across the land. Rivers cut through valleys, offering paths and dangers. All of this formed the stage where humans would one day walk. But long before humans spread across Europe, the cave bear ruled the caves. The Ice Age climate shaped the stage. The stage shaped the bear. And the bear's choices, in turn, shaped the world around it. This was Europe in the time of giants. This was the land of glaciers and caves. This was the world of the cave bear. The cave bear was not alone in the Ice Age. It shared its world with giants and hunters, with grazers and wanderers. The mammoth walked the frozen plains. Its tusks curved like great ivory moons. Its woolly coat was thick enough to guard against the cold winds. It moved in herds across the open steppe, searching for grasses beneath the snow. Each step was heavy but steady. Each breath clouded the air. The mammoth was both a survivor and a symbol of the age. Near them moved the woolly rhinoceros. Massive horn lowered against the wind. Thick skin layered in hair. It fed on the tough plants that grew in the frozen soil. Its power came not from speed, but from armor. It was a tank of the tundra, slow but unyielding. In the forests, the giant deer, known as the megaceros, spread its vast antlers. Antlers wider than a man was tall. They caught the pale light of the sun. These deer grazed in groups. They survived by numbers and by vigilance. When wolves approached, the herd closed ranks. When food grew scarce, they moved across valleys. Always searching, always moving. The predators of the Ice Age were no less fearsome. The cave lion prowled through shadow and frost. Larger than modern lions, with strength built for colder lands. They hunted in groups. They brought down young mammoths or weak deer. Their roars echoed through valleys, carrying fear into the night. Wolves too hunted in packs. They moved across plains in silence, eyes glowing in the half-light. They followed herds, waiting for weakness. They too faced the same hunger. They too lived on the edge of survival. And then there were the humans. Small compared to mammoths, fragile compared to cave bears. Yet they carried fire. They carried tools of stone and wood. They carried ideas. Their struggle was not only against the cold, but also against the giants that shared the land. For every animal, winter was a test. Food vanished. Rivers froze. Snow buried the ground. Mammoths dug through ice with tusks. Rhinoceroses scraped the earth with horns. Deer risked everything to find grass. Predators grew desperate. Wolves followed herds over long distances. Lions braved storms to find prey. Hunger pressed against every rib. It gnawed at every body. Many did not survive, but those that endured passed on their strength. This was the law of the Ice Age. To live was to struggle. To survive was to adapt. Each species wrote its own answer. The mammoth answered with size, the rhinoceros with armor, the deer with numbers, the predators with teamwork, the cave bear with sleep. Each strategy was different, but each served the same goal: to cross winter and reach spring. Imagine a winter night on the steppe. The wind screams. Snow falls without mercy. A herd of mammoths stands close together, forming a wall of warmth. Their calves are in the middle. They sway against the storm. Nearby wolves circle low to the ground, their breath sharp in the air. They wait for a mistake. They wait for weakness. The rhinoceros lowers its horn, ready to fight. The deer move restlessly, their ears turning at every sound. And in a cave not far away, the cave bear sleeps. Its body slow, its mind silent, unaware of the storm outside. This contrast is striking. Some fought against winter. Some ran from winter. Some endured it awake. But the cave bear endured by leaving it behind, by skipping the fight entirely, by turning danger into a dream. The Ice Age world was full of death, but also of balance. Predators did not always win. Prey did not always lose. The cycle turned with each season. Summer brought food and life. Winter brought hunger and silence. This balance kept the system alive. Remove one piece and the others would fall. The mammoth shaped the grasslands with its grazing. The wolves shaped the herds with their hunting. The cave bear shaped the silence with its absence. Each struggle mattered. Each survival mattered. Together they created the world of the Ice Age. Today we see their bones in museums. We see their shapes in art carved by ancient hands. But in their time they were not symbols. They were lives on the edge. They were families seeking food. They were creatures chasing one more season. Their struggle was not just survival. It was existence itself. The Ice Age wrote its lessons in their bodies. It wrote them in size and strength, in speed and patience, in horns and claws. Each animal was a chapter. Each struggle was a line. The story was long and cold, yet it was full of life. This was the world of the cave bear's neighbors. This was the struggle of giants. This was the music of survival, played against the endless winter. Caves were more than stone. They were shelters. They were wombs of silence. They were the heart of the Ice Age world. For the cave bear, they were life itself. Without caves, the long winters could not be survived. With caves, the bear became master of stillness. Fossil evidence shows us how these dens looked. Archaeologists have found chambers filled with bones, skulls resting in corners, jaws scattered across the floor. Thousands of years ago, these caves were alive with breathing giants. Today, they are quiet museums of stone and memory. Most caves used by bears were limestone. Water carved them over millennia, dripping and cutting, leaving tunnels and hollows. Some were wide chambers, tall enough to hold many bears. Some were narrow cracks in cliffs where a single animal could hide. The entrances were often near rivers or valleys, places where food could be found in summer. Inside, the air was cold but steady. Unlike the outside world, caves did not change with each storm. They held a constant chill, a darkness unbroken by wind. This stability made them perfect shelters. The bear could rest without fear of sudden freezes. It could wait without fear of heavy snow burying it alive. The floor of a cave den tells a story. Scratches mark where paws moved. Shallow pits show where bears dug nests. Bones reveal generations. Some dens hold the remains of dozens of animals layered over centuries. Mothers and cubs, males and females. Year after year, returning to the same shelter. The stone kept their memory. Imagine entering such a cave in the Ice Age. The ground is littered with old bones. The smell of musk and earth fills the air. In the shadows, massive shapes lie curled. Breath steams slowly rising into the dark. Eyes are closed. Ears flick now and then. Outside, snow falls. Inside, time sleeps. The cave was not only for one bear. Often many used the same space. They tolerated each other in this season of silence. During summer, they might compete for food. During winter, they shared stone. The instinct for survival overcame rivalry. Caves became family homes, sanctuaries where the noise of the world faded. Fossil sites across Europe show this pattern. From France to Romania, from Austria to Russia, dens repeat the same evidence. Large chambers filled with bones, marks of use, signs of return. It is clear the cave bear was tied to stone as much as to forest. The cave shaped its very name, not simply a bear, but a cave bear. Its identity locked to its shelter. The dens also shaped human history. When early people entered caves, they often found the remains of bears. They saw the skulls. They saw the power of the animal, even in death. Some placed skulls in arrangements, some painted walls near the bones. To them, the cave bear was both neighbor and spirit. But before it became myth, it was simply a sleeper, a creature using stone to survive. The design of a den mattered. A wide entrance let in too much cold. A narrow tunnel trapped heat but could suffocate. The best caves balanced air and protection. Fossil pollen shows traces of plants carried in on fur. Cub bones show that births happened inside. The cave was not only a shelter, but also a nursery. Life began here, even as winter raged outside. The bear trusted stone with its future. Scientists today study these dens to understand hibernation. They measure bone layers. They map scratches. They date charcoal left by ancient fires. Each detail adds to the picture of a giant who turned caves into sanctuaries. For the cave bear, the den was not a choice. It was destiny. Without it, no bear could cross the winter. The Ice Age was a world of extremes. The cave was the only constant. Silent stone guarding silent sleep. A den was more than a hole in the ground. It was a bridge between seasons. It was a monument of patience. It was a cradle of survival. When we see the remains today, we are not just looking at bones. We are looking at the echoes of thousands of winters. Each skull a memory, each mark a whisper. Together they tell us what words cannot, that the cave bear lived by stone, that its world was carved in darkness, that its story was written on the walls of Europe's caves. Inside the cave, the bear entered a world between life and death. Its body slowed. Its mind drifted into silence. This was hibernation, a state built from patience and perfected by evolution. Daily life in this silence was not like waking life. It was measured not in hours, but in heartbeats, not in footsteps, but in breaths. The heartbeat fell from the steady rhythm of summer to a slow echo. A giant heart that once thundered through a forest now whispered within the chest. Instead of beating 60 times in a minute, it might beat only 10. Each thump was stretched across long seconds. Each pause seemed endless. Yet this slow rhythm was not weakness. It was survival. The breath followed the same path. Deep lungs that once filled with forest air now barely moved. Breaths came only a few times each minute. They slipped in and out softly. The air inside the cave was cold and thin. But the bear needed little. The body temperature dropped. Not as cold as the stone, but colder than waking life. Muscles cooled. Organs rested. The fire of the body was banked low like coals and ash. The energy came not from fresh food, but from fat. Stored during the warm months, this fat was the only fuel. Each cell of the body knew its task. To burn slowly, to release just enough to keep life alive. The bear did not eat. It did not drink. It did not urinate or defecate. Waste that would poison other animals was recycled within. Proteins were broken and rebuilt. Nitrogen was turned back into use. The body became a closed circle, a perfect machine of conservation. Each day inside the cave looked the same. Darkness never lifted. The only sound was the faint rhythm of breathing. Once in a while, the bear shifted. It rolled to ease pressure. It twitched in dream. But mostly, it lay still. Outside storms raged. Inside time seemed frozen. A day could pass without change. A week could pass without motion. Yet life continued. Cub births happened in this silence. A mother entered hibernation heavy with life. In the depth of winter, small cubs were born, blind, tiny, fragile. They found warmth against her body. They nursed on fat-rich milk while she herself ate nothing. Her body turned its reserves into food for them. This miracle of biology showed the depth of hibernation's design. Even in stillness, life expanded. The cubs grew as she slept. By spring, they were stronger, ready to face the world outside the cave. The mother's heartbeat carried them through months of snow. The cubs' first home was darkness. Their first season was silence. Their first teacher was patience. For the adult bear dreams may have filled the silence. No one knows. The brain slowed but did not stop. Perhaps it wandered through old memories. Perhaps it swam in visions shaped by hunger and instinct. To the bear, it did not matter. To scientists today, the question remains. What is the mind of a hibernator? What does it see when months pass without waking? What is the meaning of a dream that lasts a season? The daily life of the hibernating bear was not measured in movement. It was measured in survival. Each day that passed without starvation was victory. Each week that passed without freezing was success. The cave itself helped. Its walls blocked the wind. Its floor held steady temperature. Snow at the entrance sealed out storms. Darkness gave constant calm. Without such shelter, the body's balance could not hold. The cave and the bear became partners in silence. Energy balance was the heart of this life. The bear entered hibernation with fat reserves built during summer. Each layer was a shield. Each pound was a promise. Through the months, the body consumed itself, slowly, carefully. By spring, most fat was gone, but not all. Enough remained to allow movement, enough to search for food. If a bear entered the cave to lean, it would never wake. If a bear entered heavy, it had better chance. This was why summer feeding was frantic, why roots and berries and plants mattered, why size was survival. The daily rhythm was not truly daily. There was no sunrise or sunset. There was no counting of hours. There was only the slow ticking of the body, the heart, the breath, the fat, the silence. This was time itself inside the cave. When scientists measure bones today, they find marks of this rhythm. Growth slowed during hibernation. Teeth carry lines like tree rings. Each winter left its trace. Each season of silence was carved into bone. In this way, the fossil remembers the heartbeat, the breath, the patience of giants. Life inside hibernation was fragile yet strong. The immune system still worked. Wounds could still heal, though slowly. Infections could still be fought. Muscles did not waste away. Bones did not crumble. All of this is astonishing. Humans lying still for months would die. Their muscles would shrink. Their blood would clot. Their organs would fail. Yet the cave bear endured. This is why modern science studies hibernation. It holds secrets for medicine. Secrets of slowing metabolism. Secrets of protecting tissue. Secrets of surviving long without food. The bear carried these answers in its blood. Answers written by the Ice Age. Each day in the den was the same. Silence, darkness, slow breath. Yet each day was a triumph. Because each day meant one step closer to spring. Outside, the mammoth dug snow. The wolf chased prey. The reindeer searched for grass. They fought each day with movement. The cave bear fought with stillness. It surrendered to sleep, and in that surrender found victory. To imagine this life is to imagine patience beyond human reach. To sleep for 8 months. To let the world pass by. To trust in silence. To trust in fat. To trust in the slow beat of the heart. This was the daily life of the hibernating cave bear. No sunrise. No sunset. No hunt. No feast. Only waiting. Only dreaming. Only surviving. And yet in this waiting the bear became strong. In this stillness it became master of winter. The Ice Age was not won by teeth alone. It was not won by claws alone. It was won also by the art of hibernation. The heartbeat slowed. The breath softened. The body cooled. The energy balanced. Day after day. Week after week. Month after month. Until at last the snow melted. Until at last the rivers broke free. Until at last the sun grew warm again. Then the bear stirred. Muscles awoke. Bones stretched. Hunger returned. The long dream ended, and a new season began. In the depth of winter, life seemed impossible. Snow buried the valleys. Ice sealed the rivers. Forests stood silent without fruit or leaf. Yet inside the cave a miracle unfolded. The mother bear lay in darkness, her body slowed by hibernation, her breath shallow and her heartbeat low. She had entered the den heavy with life. While the storms raged above, while the winds cut across the plains within her body, cubs waited to be born. In the middle of this silence, in the coldest months of the year, tiny lives emerged. Cave bear cubs were born small, almost helpless, blind, hairless, barely larger than a human hand. Yet they carried the future of the species in their fragile forms. They pressed against their mother seeking warmth. They found milk rich with fat, though she herself ate nothing. Her body transformed her summer stores into nourishment. Even as she starved, she gave. Even as she slept, she fed. This was the paradox of survival. The mother preserved her own life by stillness, while giving life through sacrifice. Scientists studying fossils have found bones of cubs in many dens. They show us this pattern was not rare. It was the cycle of every winter. Mothers gave birth in silence. Cubs opened their eyes for the first time in darkness. Their world was stone and fur and breath. Their sky was the roof of the cave. Their sun was the warmth of milk. Their days passed in a rhythm without sound. They grew while their mother slept. Each week added weight to their tiny frames. Each month brought fur thicker and eyes clearer. By the time spring returned, they were ready to stumble into light. The miracle of cub birth in hibernation is one of nature's most delicate strategies. Other large animals gave birth in summer when food was abundant. But the cave bear trusted the stillness of winter. Perhaps the safety of the den mattered more than food. Outside predators roamed. Wolves hunted in packs. Lions searched the valleys. A newborn would not survive there. But inside the cave, danger could not enter easily. The mother's silence became a shield. The stone walls became guardians. In this hidden nursery life began, where the outside world could not reach. The biology of this process is remarkable. A pregnant bear enters hibernation. Her body slows, yet it still carries the cubs to term. The birth happens while she is half asleep. Her instincts guide her even in this state. She licks the cubs clean. She draws them close. She allows them to nurse. All of this while her own heartbeat is slow and her body is fasting. It is a balance so fine that a small mistake would mean death for both mother and young. Yet generation after generation it succeeded. That is why the species endured for hundreds of thousands of years. Imagine the scene in the cave. The storm outside screams across the mountains. Snow falls in thick silence. The rivers are locked in ice. In the den, the mother lies still. Her flanks rise and fall with shallow breath. At her side, two small cubs press close. They squeak softly. They find warmth against her fur. They feed. She stirs slightly. She does not wake fully. Her eyes remain closed, but her body responds. Milk flows. The cubs drink. Their tiny hearts beat fast. Their tiny lungs breathe quickly. They are alive because she sleeps. They are alive because she dreamed her way through hunger. Each day they grow. Their ears open. Their fur thickens. They begin to crawl. They mouth her paws. They tug at each other. Their world is only a few steps wide, but within that world they learn the meaning of life. By spring, when the snow melts, they will follow her outside. Their first vision will be light spilling into the cave entrance. Their first air will be the smell of thawed earth. Their first steps will be clumsy across stone. But they will walk, they will live, and the cycle will continue. Fossil evidence of cub bones shows us the fragility of this process. Many did not survive. Some dens hold the remains of mothers and young who never saw spring. If the mother was too thin, she could not produce milk. If the winter was too long, she might not last until thaw. If predators found the den disaster struck, yet enough survived to carry the species forward. Each successful birth was a triumph against the age of ice. The strategy of winter birth carried risks but also advantages. Cubs that began life in January or February had months to grow before the next winter. By the time snow returned, they were strong enough to endure. They could forage. They could follow their mother. If they had been born in summer, they would face the cold too soon. Nature chose winter as the safer path, safe in darkness instead of exposed in light. This timing shaped the bear's destiny. It shaped its population. It shaped its relationship with the land. The Ice Age demanded clever answers. Winter birth was one of the cleverest. It turned the harshest season into a hidden cradle. The mother's body was the bridge, her fat the currency, her patience the price. She gave so that life would continue. Her cubs were born in hunger, yet grew in love. They began in silence, yet became part of the roaring forests. This cycle repeated countless times across thousands of years. Caves across Europe hold the echoes. Tiny teeth, small bones, traces of life once sheltered in fur. When scientists kneel in those caves today, they touch the story of mothers and cubs. They touch the oldest nursery of Europe. They touch the warmth of an Ice Age family. The cubs born in winter remind us that life finds a way even in the darkest months. The survival is not only about strength, but about timing. That love can exist even in silence. The daily life of a cave bear cub was fragile but real. It was measured not in hunts or journeys, but in heartbeats pressed against a mother's chest. It was measured in mouthfuls of milk. It was measured in sleep within sleep. This was the smallest heartbeat of the Ice Age. This was the promise of the future. In every cub born in winter, the species endured. In every den filled with tiny cries, the Ice Age softened for a moment. The storms raged outside, but inside, life whispered. A whisper that lasted for millennia. A whisper that carried the cave bear across ages of ice and snow. For the cave bear, the cave was not just shelter, it was tradition, it was memory, it was home across centuries and generations. Bones found in Europe tell this story again and again, the same caves used by mothers and cubs, by fathers and rivals, by countless bears. Over thousands of years, the limestone chambers became silent witnesses to loyalty stronger than death. Each winter, when the snow began to fall, when rivers froze, when forests gave nothing back, the bears returned to the same places. They knew the path carved into instinct. They followed valleys and rivers. They climbed slopes and cliffs until they stood at the mouth of stone they had used before. And they entered again, guided by memory, shaped by evolution, generation after generation. The cycle repeated. The caves filled with the same slow breaths, the same silence, the same dreams. Scratch marks on stone show the history, deep grooves etched by claws on walls and floors. Shallow nests dug into dirt, reused season after season. Bones layered like pages in a book, each page telling of another winter, another birth, another survival. Archaeologists who enter these caves today find skulls lying beside each other, jaws scattered across the ground, cub skeletons mixed with adults, the remains of dozens, sometimes hundreds of bears, all within the same chambers. This is not chance, this is inheritance. Each generation knew where to return the caves, became sacred not by ritual but by survival. To leave the den was death to return. Was life the caves of Austria, France, Germany, Romania, Poland all tell the same story. The cave bear returned again, and again the same stone held the same families for centuries. The caves themselves became part of the bear's identity. Without them, there was no species to imagine this loyalty. We must picture a valley in the Ice Age. Snow falls from a grey sky. The forest is silent. Wolves move along the ridges, mammoths travel across the plain, and a bear moves alone toward a cliff. In the cliff is a dark opening. It smells of musk and bones. It smells of history. The bear lowers its head and steps inside its ancestors. Once slept here, it will sleep here too. When spring comes, it will leave, but when winter comes again, it will return. The den belongs to the bloodline more than to the stone. This cycle meant that caves became crowded over time. Fossil sites show that dozens of bears, sometimes, shared the same chambers, not all at once, but across centuries, bones layered upon bones. The cave was a library of lives, every skull a record, every tooth a sentence, every claw mark a paragraph. Entire histories written in silence. This return to the same dens gave safety. The bear knew the shelter was deep enough, the entrance narrow enough, the temperature steady enough. It was tested by generations. It had proven its worth by keeping families alive in the harshest winters. The bear trusted stone the way humans later trusted fire for cubs. This meant their first breath was in the same cave where their mother was born, their first step on the same ground scratched by ancestors, their first winter in the same silence. Their mother once survived. The caves shaped memory, even if bears did not tell stories. Their bodies carried the instinct. The pull to return the path was written in blood, not words. This instinct is not unique to bears. Today we see salmon returning to the rivers of their birth, birds migrating to the same forests, elephants walking ancient trails, but the cave bear returned to stone, to darkness, to stillness. It was an anchor in a world that always shifted. Glaciers moved valleys, flooded forests, changed. But the cave remained the same. The entrance waited year after year. The chamber held its silence. The walls kept the marks, the bones piled higher. This constancy shaped the species. It gave them a map. In a world without maps, it gave them tradition. In a world of change, when humans later entered these caves, they found the bones. They saw the patterns. They may have understood the power of place. Some arranged skulls in circles, some painted walls near the remains. The caves spoke of memory, even to them. The cave bear had written its story so deeply into stone that even after extinction, the story remained. For scientists, this loyalty explains why so many fossils survive. The bears did not scatter their bones across the land, they concentrated them in sacred shelters. This is why we know them so well, why we can study their lives, their deaths, their cubs, their families. The caves preserved what time tried to erase, and so each generation that returned added another chapter, another verse, another whisper. In the song of survival, to live in the Ice Age was to face endless change, to be forced to adapt again and again. But for the cave bear, the cave was constant. A place where generations met across centuries without ever seeing each other. A cub born in one century might lie in the same corner where an ancestor was born 1,000 years before. The cave was the thread across time, stone binding life to life, bone to bone, breath to breath. In this way, the cave bear achieved a kind of immortality, not of individuals but of memory. The species lived not only in blood, but in place. Each den was a monument not built by hands, but carved by loyalty. Today, when we stand in those caves, we feel the echo, we feel the weight of generations. We feel the silence thick with history. It is as if the walls themselves remember the breaths of bears who slept through winters long vanished. The loyalty to stone, the return again and again across millennia. This was the heartbeat of the cave. Bear's story, the dens were not just shelter, they were inheritance, the gift each generation left. To the next, the map written without ink, the home that outlasted the animal itself. The cave bear is gone, but the caves remain, holding bones, holding scratches, holding silence, still waiting for the footsteps that will never come. When early humans entered the caves of Europe, they did not always come alone. Sometimes the darkness already belonged to them. Another, the cave bear had been there for centuries before people arrived. Its bones filled the chambers, its scent marked the walls, its silence ruled the stone. When the first humans stepped into these places with torches of fire, they entered the kingdom of the bear. Encounters between the two were inevitable. The Ice Age was not a world of empty spaces, it was crowded with giants, crowded with predators, crowded with prey. Humans were small, fragile compared to the cave bear, but they carried weapons, they carried fire, they carried thought. The cave bear carried weight, claws, jaws. Silence, the meeting of these two species was written in struggle. Sometimes it ended with humans fleeing, sometimes it ended with humans winning, sometimes it ended with death for both. When archaeologists explore caves today, they find evidence of this contact: bare bones with cut marks, skulls broken by stone tools, ashes of fires near piles of bones, signs that people entered after bears, signs that people hunted them, signs that sometimes people worshipped them too. To imagine such an encounter, we must step into the Ice Age. Night, a band of humans approaches a cave. They carry spears tipped with stone. Their clothes are stitched from hides, their eyes watch the dark carefully. Inside the cave lies a massive bear, its body heavy with sleep, its breath steaming into the cold air. The humans know this is danger, but also food, fat, meat, fur, bone, all of it, valuable for survival. They whisper, they decide. They step closer, the bear stirs, its eyes open for a moment. Silence breaks into growl. Torches, flare spears are raised. The clash between human and cave bear was never equal in strength, but humans had patience, they had numbers, they had fire. The bear had raw power and fury. If surprised in its den, the bear could kill in seconds, a swipe of its paw, a snap of its jaws. Humans had to be clever. They often waited until hibernation slowed the giant. They attacked while it was still sluggish. They threw fire to blind it. They threw spears to weaken it. The fight was desperate and dangerous. Many humans may have died in these battles, but victory meant survival for the group. Meat enough for weeks, fur thick enough for clothes, bones strong enough for tools. This risk was sometimes worth it, other times humans avoided the dens they entered only after the bear had died or left. They gathered bones, they lit fires, they painted walls in some caves. Skulls of bears have been found carefully placed, as if in ritual, perhaps. Humans respected the beast, perhaps they feared it, perhaps they saw in its long sleep a mystery. Close to death and close to dream. Encounters between humans and bears were not only of violence, they were also of imagination. The bear was more than food, it was power, it was spirit, it was the other who shared the cave. The cave itself became a contested space, shelter for man, shelter for bear, sometimes one, sometimes the other, but the memory of the poacher struggle endured in myths for humans. The cave bear was both enemy and teacher. It showed the danger of the wild, it showed the wisdom of sleep, it showed the cost of survival. When we picture those early nights, we see flickering fire shadows on stone, men and women gathered close, children clutching mothers, while deep in the cave, the bones of bears lie silent, some skulls placed on ledges, some jaws arranged in rows. Archaeologists still argue, were these offerings, were these trophies, were these signs of respect or fear? Whatever the answer, they reveal that humans felt something more than hunger when they met the cave bear. The beast was too great to be only meat. It was a rival, it was a neighbor, it was a spirit in stone. The danger of encounter shaped both. Species for the bear. Humans were a new predator, strange, small, clever. For humans, the bear was a test of courage. A source of food, a source of myth. Both remembered each other in bone and story. The Ice Age world forced these meetings. Valleys were narrow, caves were limited, food was scarce, no creature could exist. Alone, every step carried the chance of crossing. Paths with another giant, the cave bear and the human crossed paths. More than once, and each meeting left a mark in fossils, in art, in memory. The encounters remind us that survival was never simple. It was not only claws against spears, it was also silence against fire. It was instinct against thought. It was the dream of winter against the hunger of man. In this balance, both lived for a time, both carved their place into the land, but in the end only one remained. The bones of bears still lie in caves. The footsteps of humans still echo in culture. Together they tell the story of an ancient rivalry, of an ancient meeting of two species facing the same cold under the same stars. The cave was their shared stage, the Ice Age their shared trial, and each encounter was part of the long story of survival written in darkness and stone. When early humans looked at the cave bear, they did not see only an animal. They saw a presence larger than themselves. They saw a giant that owned the caves before they saw a creature that could vanish for months and then rise again as if from death. This mystery filled their minds with stories. The bones of bears found deep in caves are not always scattered by chance. Some skulls were placed carefully on ledges, some jaws were arranged together, some bones were covered by stones. These acts suggest intention, ritual, respect, or fear. The cave bear was too powerful to be ignored. It was too close to human life to be seen as ordinary hunters. Who faced it knew its strength. Those who saw its silence in winter knew its secret of sleep and survival. This mixture of fear and wonder grew into myth. The bear became a spirit of the cave, a guardian, a master of stone. To some groups, it may have been sacred, the animal that shared the dark home, the animal that could sleep like death and wake like rebirth. This cycle mirrored human dreams of the afterlife, to close the eyes in darkness, to wake again in light. The bear showed them this truth each winter and each spring. In some caves, ancient paintings were made. Lines of red ochre, shapes of animals. Among them are outlines that may be bears, massive forms drawn on walls where flickering firelight made them seem alive. Humans did not paint every animal they hunted. They painted those that carried meaning, those that carried weight in the soul. The cave bear was such a being, its body so large, its silence so deep, its power so clear. It demanded respect. In some places, researchers believe skulls were placed as offerings, perhaps to honor the spirit of the bear, perhaps to ask for protection, perhaps to take part in the mystery of its long sleep. In Switzerland and France, caves hold evidence of this. In Chauvet and Dapendrakenloch, signs of arrangement appear, not random, but chosen for meaning. We cannot know the exact thoughts of those people, but we know they saw more than bones. They saw symbols. When a human placed a skull on a ledge, when a human painted a figure on stone, when a human carried a tooth as ornament, it was not hunger speaking, it was belief. The cave bear entered human imagination and became myth. The silence of its hibernation became the silence of death. The awakening in spring became the promise of life. The deep cave became the temple. The den became the shrine. The people of the Ice Age lived close to death. Storms, hunger, predators, all pressed against them. They needed meaning. They needed signs. They looked to the animals around them. The mammoth gave food. The wolf gave fear. The cave bear gave mystery. No wonder it entered their rituals. It was the sleeping giant. It was the master of darkness. It was the one who returned again and again when others did not. These qualities became sacred. Humans placed bones in circles, as if creating altars. They lit fires beside They may have told stories beside the skulls, stories of bears as ancestors, stories of bears as guardians, stories of bears as bridges to the spirit world. Every culture that followed later had myths of bears, the strength of the bear, the wisdom of the bear, the dream of the bear. These myths may reach back to the cave bear, to those early nights when firelight danced across stone and shadows turned bones into symbols for a child sitting near the fire. The skull on the rock was not just bone, it was the head of a spirit, watching in silence for a hunter who entered the cave. The painting on the wall was not just pigment, it was life captured, it was power, remembered. The cave bear thus became part of human thought, not just human diet. Its memory lived in ritual long after its body was gone. The marks on stone are still there for us to see today. They remind us that humans are not only hunters, we are storytellers, we are believers, we are seekers of meaning. The cave bear stood at the border of fear and faith, and so it was honored and remembered. The myths made it eternal, even after extinction. In this way, the cave bear survived, not in flesh, but in culture. It became a shadow in art, a spirit in story, a symbol in ritual. Its silence became sacred, its bones became holy, its caves became temples in the heart of the Ice Age. The cave bear was more than animal, it was myth. Modern biology studies hibernation not as mystery but as science, yet the wonder remains. When scientists look at bears, they see living experiments perfected by evolution. They ask, how can a body survive months without food? How can muscles remain strong without movement? How can waste be recycled without poison? The answers are hidden in biology, and each answer opens new doors. In summer, a bear eats constantly. It builds layers of fat. This fat is not only weight, it is energy stored like firewood. Each pound a promise against the cold. When winter comes, the body turns inward. It burns fat slowly, not wildly. Metabolism drops, heart rate slows, breathing falls, body temperature decreases, not to freezing, but to a steady chill. Every organ shifts into economy mode. The liver recycles proteins, the kidneys reduce waste, the intestines rest, the heart beats a fraction of its summer rhythm. Yet the animal does not die, it hovers in balance. Biology shows that during hibernation, the bear suppresses many functions but never fully stops them. The immune system stays awake just enough to fight infection. Bones stay dense because special hormones protect them. Muscles resist shrinking because proteins are recycled into strength. This is what makes bear hibernation unique. Smaller animals like bats or ground squirrels hibernate too, but their bodies cool almost to freezing. Their hearts stop for minutes at a time. They wake and sleep in cycles, but bears stay larger, warmer, steadier. They sleep long and deep without waking for months. Their rhythm is slower but safer. Humans cannot do this. If a human stayed still for months, muscles would waste away, blood would clot, lungs would fail, bones would weaken. Yet the bear endures. Biology teaches us that chemicals in the blood play a role, substances that reduce clotting, substances that maintain strength. Scientists hope to use this knowledge for medicine. Imagine if humans could hibernate for space travel. Imagine if patients could be placed in safe sleep during recovery. The secrets of the bear could save lives. Hibernation is a map to new science. When researchers measure oxygen use in a hibernating bear, they see a body using only a quarter of the energy it would in summer. The heart beats slowly but efficiently, blood pressure falls, but organs remain alive. This balance is delicate but stable. A bear may breathe only once every 45 seconds, yet the brain survives without harm. The body temperature drops, but not below safety. It is like turning down a fire, not extinguishing it. The coals remain ready to blaze again. In spring, modern biology also teaches us that hibernation is linked to genetics. Certain genes switch on in winter, others turn off proteins that control Metabolism shift pathways, cells change their priorities. Fat cells release energy slowly, muscle cells protect themselves. Brain cells enter a guarded state. All of this is coordinated, like an orchestra directed by evolution. The timing is perfect. If the bear wakes too early, it starves. If it wakes too late, it misses food. If it cannot slow its heart, it burns too fast. If it slows too much, it dies. Balance is everything. Biology shows us that the endocrine system plays a key role. Hormones shift. In winter, insulin sensitivity changes. Fat becomes the main fuel. Glucose becomes rare, yet the brain is protected with just enough. Sugar, the bear's body is like a master of economy, spending energy, carefully saving every piece, recycling what can be recycled. Waste like urea, that in humans would become toxic, is converted back into useful protein. This is one of the greatest secrets of hibernation: to sleep without poisoning, to starve without dying, to rest without rotting. Science tries to copy this miracle in laboratories, but the bear carries it without thought. Each winter, every year, biology also shows us the link between hibernation and reproduction. Females give birth in hibernation, their bodies feeding cubs with milk while fasting. This is possible because fat is turned not only into energy but into nourishment. The chemistry is perfect enough to allow new life even during stillness. For humans, this is almost impossible, but for the bear, it is natural. Modern biology teaches us also that the heart of a hibernating bear is different. It beats slow but strong. It does not weaken. Over time, it rests but does not collapse. If scientists could learn to copy this, they could protect human hearts during surgery or illness. Every discovery brings new hope, yet much remains unknown. What triggers the start of hibernation? Is it the cold? Is it the light? Is it the rhythm of the body clock? What exactly tells the genes to switch the body to slow motion? Why can some animals do this while others cannot? Why can a bear hibernate but a lion cannot? Science has answers, but not all the answers. Still, the cave bear shows us that this power is ancient. It was perfected in the ice age. It carried species across endless winters. It shows us that survival is not only about movement, but about control. Control of energy, control of time, control of life itself. Imagine lying in stillness for months, without hunger, without thirst, without fear, and then waking, ready to move again. This is what biology teaches us is possible. This is what the bear shows each winter, each year, in the silence of its cave. Modern science measures it with monitors and sensors, but the truth is older than tools. The truth is written in bone and blood. Biology shows us that hibernation is not escape, it is adaptation, not weakness but mastery. The bear is not defeated by winter, it conquers it by turning its body into a fortress. Each heartbeat a guard, each breath a shield, each drop of fat a weapon. The lesson for us is clear sometimes. Survival is not in fighting, but in waiting, not in burning, but in conserving, not in movement, but in stillness. Modern biology teaches us that hibernation is the art of balance, the ancient art of patience turned into science. The cave bear carried this art across ages, and we still learn from it today. Humans have always dreamed of hibernation. The idea of lying still through winter. The idea of sleeping through hunger and waking in spring. The idea of skipping pain and danger by surrendering to silence. When humans watched the bear, they saw this dream made real. The question remains, could humans ever hibernate? Biology says maybe. Technology says someday. For now, it is a vision. But science is learning from the bear. A human body is not built like a bear. Our hearts do not slow safely. Our muscles waste away when we lie still. Our bones weaken. Our blood clots. Our brains demand constant sugar. Yet modern research shows that many of these problems could be solved. The bear already solves them. If humans could copy the bear's tricks, we too might learn the art of long sleep. Imagine the uses. Patients in hospitals placed into safe hibernation while their bodies heal. Soldiers in emergencies slowed into deep rest until rescue comes. Astronauts traveling for years between planets, asleep without food, awake with strength. These are not fantasies without roots. They are based on the real biology of bears. Lessons from the cave. Lessons from the Ice Age. The first lesson is energy. Bears live months without food by burning fat slowly. Humans also store fat, but we burn it too quickly. If we could shift our metabolism to the bear's rhythm, we could survive far longer without eating. Scientists look at hormones and proteins that change in bears each winter. They search for ways to trigger the same changes in humans. The second lesson is recycling. Bears do not urinate or defecate for months. Waste that would poison us is turned back into useful materials. If humans could do the same, hospitals could keep patients alive in silence for long periods without harm. Space travelers could drift between stars without constant supplies. The third lesson is protection. Bears protect muscles and bones even when motionless. Humans grow weak when still, but the bear keeps strength. It does this by unique proteins that stop breakdown. If we learn to copy these signals, we could fight muscle loss in disease. We could protect bone in space. We could heal faster. The fourth lesson is the heart. Bears slow their hearts without collapse. Humans cannot. If doctors could guide the human heart to beat slowly without failure, we could survive surgeries and illnesses that now kill. Hibernation medicine could change everything. The final lesson is patience. Bears wait. They do nothing. They let time pass. For humans, this is the hardest part. We are creatures of movement. But perhaps survival in the future will require stillness, just as it did for the bear. There are already experiments. Scientists cool human bodies during surgery. They lower temperature to protect the brain and heart. Some researchers test drugs that copy hibernation signals. In animals, they have made mice and even pigs enter states close to hibernation. Humans are next. The lessons of the cave bear guide them. The Ice Age still whispers to us. Could humans ever hibernate? The answer is not no. The answer is not yet. But someday, perhaps yes. The dream is close, and the lessons are clear. We must learn control of energy, control of waste, control of strength, control of heart. If we master these, we may one day join the bear in silence. Imagine a future where a sick patient lies in safe sleep while machines repair the body. Imagine a future where explorers travel to Mars asleep in pods, their bodies preserved by borrowed secrets of the bear. Imagine a future where the old can rest for months without decay, waiting for medicine to cure them. All of this lies within reach if we listen to the bear. Hibernation is not fantasy. It is biology. It is real. The cave bear carried it through ages of ice. Modern science can carry it into the future. We owe this lesson to the giants who slept in stone. The cave bear did not know it was teaching, but it did. Each winter was a lecture. Each spring was proof. Humans are only beginning to understand, but the road is open. The dream is alive. Could humans ever hibernate? Yes, someday, with patience, with science, with the bear as teacher. Until then, we look into caves. We see the bones. We see the silence. And we wonder. The cave bear ruled Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. It slept through winters. It fed through summers. It raised cubs in silence. It returned to the same caves generation after generation. It seemed unshakable, a giant ridden into the land. Yet it vanished, slowly, then completely. Today we find only bones, fossils resting in dark chambers, silent skulls where once there was breath. Why did the cave bear go extinct? The answer is not one reason. It is many. A web of changes that together pulled the species into silence. The first force was climate. The Ice Age was not one block of endless cold. It was cycles. Cold grew harsher, then softened, then grew harsh again. Glaciers advanced and retreated. Each change reshaped the land. Plants shifted. Forests shrank. Grasslands spread. Then forests returned. The cave bear relied on plants more than many think. Its teeth show grinding surfaces made for roots and herbs. It ate some meat, but plants were its main food. When forests shrank, food grew scarce. When ice-covered valleys, berries, and roots vanished, summer grew shorter, winters stretched longer. For a giant that needed huge reserves, this was disaster. Even if it survived one bad year, 2 or 3 in a row could kill. Climate did not only change food, it changed caves. Glaciers crushed some shelters. Rivers flooded others. The safe dens of one age disappeared in the next. Bears returned to old homes only to find them broken. To lose caves was to lose survival. The second force was humans. As modern humans spread into Europe, they too needed caves. Fire burned in the same chambers where bears once slept. Spears clashed with claws. Some humans hunted bears for food. Some killed them for safety. Some claimed caves as homes and pushed the animals out. Evidence shows cut marks on bones. Evidence shows skulls broken by tools. Humans saw the bear not only as rival, but as prize. To kill one meant meat and fur for a tribe. To clear a den meant shelter for winter. Each encounter cost the bears. The third force was numbers. Cave bears had a slow rhythm of life. They birthed cubs only once a year. Cubs were small, fragile, born in winter. Many did not survive. This meant the population grew slowly. When pressure arose from climate or hunting, they could not recover quickly. Each death mattered. Each bad year cut deeper. Slowly, the numbers fell. The fourth force was food competition. Other animals also searched for the same plants. Deer grazed on grass. Mammoths dug roots. Humans gathered berries. The bear was strong but slow. It could not chase herds over long distances. It depended on what grew near its caves. As food thinned, rivals took more. The bear starved. Together, these forces closed the circle. Climate cut food. Humans cut safety. Numbers fell. Caves grew scarce. Hunger grew common. Extinction was not sudden like a storm. It was slow like a winter that never ended. For thousands of years, the population shrank. From millions to thousands. From thousands to hundreds. Until only a few remained in scattered caves. Then silence. The last cave bare bones date to around 24,000 years ago. After that, none. The giant was gone. Extinction is more than loss of bodies. It is loss of stories. The Ice Age lost one of its masters of silence. The caves lost their oldest sleepers. Humans lost a rival and gained a memory. Why did cave bears go extinct? Climate change, human hunting, food scarcity, fragile birth rates. Altogether, the lesson is balance. No giant is safe when balance breaks. The bear seemed eternal, but it was tied to its land. When the land shifted, it could not shift fast enough. The mammoth too would vanish later. The rhinoceros too. The Ice Age ended with silence for many. The cave bear's extinction teaches us today. Climate still changes. Species still depend on balance. Human hands still push the scale. What happened to the bear can happen again. The bones in museums are not only past, they are warnings. The cave bear survived the fiercest cold, but not the changes that followed. It teaches us that survival is not only strength, it is also adaptation. Without adaptation, even giants fall. The extinction of the cave bear is more than an old story. It is a mirror. It shows us what happens when balance breaks. It shows us what happens when climate shifts too fast, when food disappears, when humans change the land. It is not only about the past. It is about now. It is about the future. The bones in caves are not silent. They speak. They warn. They remind. When we ask what their extinction teaches us today, the answers are many. The first lesson is that strength is not enough. The cave bear was huge. It was powerful. It was built for survival. Yet it vanished. Muscles did not save it. Claws did not save it. Size did not save it. What was missing was flexibility. What was missing was speed of change. When the world shifted, the bear could not shift with it. Today, many species face the same challenge. Forests shrink. Oceans warm. Ice melts. Some animals adapt quickly. Some cannot. Like the cave bear, they risk silence. The second lesson is about climate. The Ice Age shifted naturally. But today, climate shifts because of human action. We burn fuels. We cut forests. We change the air. The planet warms. Species move. Some vanish. The cave bear teaches that climate change is a killer of giants. It shows us that even those who ruled for hundreds of thousands of years can be undone by shifting seasons. If climate change ended the story of the cave bear, what stories might it end today? The third lesson is about humans. Early people hunted the bear. They entered its caves. They took its food. They pushed it out. They did not cause extinction alone, but they added pressure. Today, humans still add pressure. We take land, we hunt, we pollute. We drive species to the edge. The cave bear teaches us that even small pressures build into collapse. A spear here, a lost cave there. Over centuries, it was enough. Today, our tools are stronger, our numbers larger. The danger is greater. The fourth lesson is about reproduction. The cave bear birthed cubs in winter. Small, fragile cubs. Few survived. Populations grew slowly. When numbers fell, they could not rise again. This is true for many species now. Elephants birth slowly. Whales birth slowly. When killed, they cannot recover fast. The cave bear teaches us that life with slow rhythm is fragile when the world changes quickly. The fifth lesson is about memory. We remember the cave bear through bones, through art, through myth. But memory does not bring it back. Extinction is forever. Once gone, there is no return. Some dream of cloning. Some dream of bringing back lost species. But what is lost is more than DNA. It is place. It is tradition. It is rhythm. The caves are empty now. The silence is permanent. The sixth lesson is about balance. Ecosystems are like webs. Each thread holds weight. Cut one and others strain. Remove one species and others shift. The cave bear's absence changed Europe. Caves once filled with sleepers were empty. Predators had one less rival. Plants grew differently. The balance shifted. We must see this today. Each extinction we cause changes the web. Sometimes in ways we do not expect. Sometimes in ways we cannot fix. The seventh lesson is about humility. Humans once feared the cave bear. Then they outlived it. Today we may think we are safe. But we too depend on balance. We too depend on climate. We too depend on food. If giants can fall, so can we. The bones whisper humility. Do not think yourself untouchable. Do not think yourself eternal. The eighth lesson is about warning. The extinction of the cave bear is a warning for us today. We see polar bears on melting ice. We see forests cut. We see oceans acidify. These are not just news. They are signals. They are echoes of the cave bear's silence. If we do not listen, we may repeat the story. The ninth lesson is about patience. The bear survived so long by patience, by waiting, by hibernating. It teaches us that survival is not only about speed, but also about knowing when to be still. For humans, this means not rushing to destroy, not rushing to consume, to pause, to balance, to rest, to give the earth time. The 10th lesson is about responsibility. We hold more power than ever. We can end species or save them. We can burn forests or plant them. We can poison rivers or clean them. The cave bear teaches us that choices matter. Every action builds into history. Early humans did not know their spears would echo across millennia. We do know we cannot pretend ignorance. We carry responsibility. Imagine standing in a cave today. Fossil skulls stare from the ground. Empty sockets, heavy jaws, silent testimony. They tell us this is what extinction looks like. This is what forever means. No breath, no movement, only stone and bone. The cave bear teaches us that life is precious and fragile. It is not guaranteed. It is not eternal. It is a flame that can be blown out. Our world holds many flames. Some small, some giant. All can fade. The lesson is to guard them. The lesson is to learn from silence before silence spreads. Extinction teaches also about culture. The cave bear lived not only in nature but in human thought. It entered myths. It entered rituals. When it vanished, culture shifted too. We lost not only an animal but a story. Each extinction today also erases stories. The songs of whales, the myths of lions, the memory of elephants. Culture shrinks with nature. The cave bear's extinction teaches that when nature dies, humanity loses part of itself. The bones remind us of connection. They show that what we do to the earth returns to us. We shape the fate of others. In the end, that fate shapes us. The Ice Age ended with silence for the bear. Our age may end with silence for others. Unless we change, unless we learn, unless we listen. The cave bear is gone, but its lesson remains. The lesson is written in stone. The lesson is written in silence. The lesson is simple. Balance is life. Without balance, there is only extinction. The cave bear is gone, yet it remains. It remains in bones buried deep in the limestone of Europe. It remains in skulls placed carefully on shelves of rock. It remains in paintings drawn with red ochre on walls lit by ancient fire. It remains in myths carried across generations of humans who once feared and honored it. It remains in the silence of caves where breath once filled the dark. The cave bear's place in human memory is large. For tens of thousands of years, people walked the same valleys. They entered the same caves. They saw the same shadows. They heard the same silence. They met the same giants. When they left marks on stone, they remembered. When they placed bones in circles, they remembered. When they told stories beside fire, they remembered. The cave bear became more than neighbor. It became symbol. For some, it was strength. For some, it was danger. For some, it was mystery. For all, it was unforgettable. Today, we still remember. Scientists study bones and teeth. Artists paint reconstructions. Writers tell stories. Children look at skeletons in museums and imagine a giant asleep. The bear is gone, but it is not forgotten. In human memory, it became immortal. Memory is a kind of cave, deep, dark, holding echoes of the past. The cave bear sleeps there still, waiting in thought, if not in flesh. Its place in culture is wide. From old myths of Europe to modern museums, it stands as an icon of the Ice Age. Some myths told of bears as ancestors. Others told of bears as guardians of caves. Others spoke of bears as spirits who crossed between worlds of life and death. These ideas may all trace back to the cave bear, to the silence of its dens, to the mystery of its long sleep. Rituals grew around it, skulls placed with care, fires lit with intention. Even after extinction, the memory did not fade. Bears remained sacred in many cultures. The echo of the cave bear lived on in them. Its extinction did not erase its meaning. If anything, it deepened it. The absence became presence. The silence became symbol. The culture of the bear stretched far beyond its bones. Its place is also in science. Modern biology looks to the cave bear as teacher. Modern climate science looks to it as warning. Its story is not only old, it is current. It tells us of balance. It tells us of fragility. It tells us of patience. It tells us of loss. The cave bear's place in memory is both natural and human. Nature shaped its bones. Humans shaped its meaning. Together, they created a legacy. When we stand in a cave today, we feel it. We see the skulls. We touch the silence. We know we are not the first to stand there. Others stood. Bears stood. Humans stood. Centuries ago, millennia ago, time folds inside stone. The cave bear's legacy lives in this fold. It is a reminder that life is large but not eternal. It is a reminder that extinction is real. It is a reminder that memory is powerful. The final reflection is simple. The cave bear was a giant. It lived through storms. It slept through winters. It raised cubs in darkness. It survived for ages. Then it vanished. Yet even vanished, it remains with us. In our culture, in our science, in our stories, in our dreams, it is a sleeping giant still, sleeping in memory, sleeping in bone, sleeping in the quiet voice of the storyteller. As we close this story, we too enter silence. The cave bear rests, and so may we. Let the rhythm of its heart carry you. Let the patience of its sleep guide you. Let the stillness of the cave settle into your own breath. The Ice Age is far away now, but the lessons remain. Sleep can be survival. Silence can be wisdom. Stillness can be strength. Tonight as you rest, think of the giant who once slept for months in stone. Think of its breath, slow and soft. Think of its cubs pressed close. Think of the snow outside the cave, falling without end. Think of the dream stretched across seasons. Let this image carry you into your own dream, into your own rest, into your own silence. Good night to the cave bear. Good night to the listener. Good night to the long story of survival. May your sleep be deep. May your dreams be calm. May your night be safe. When you wake tomorrow, the story will continue. Another chapter, another animal, another journey into the past. If you enjoyed this story, press the like button. It helps the channel. It helps the stories continue. It helps the giants live again in memory. And if you wish to join us again tomorrow for the next story, do not forget, like the video, leave a comment, tell us the hour you listened, tell us where you listened, and most of all, rest well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing silence with the cave bear. Good night.